Teddy, honey, you ate Tigger's eyes. Why would you do that? Do we need to find you somebody to talk to? This is gross. Look at what you did to him. Look at what you did to Tigger. Poor Tigger. Why, hello there, endurance nerds. If you're here, you've either been betrayed by the taper before, or you're about to enter that deeply unsettling training phase where doing less is supposed to help you do more. Maybe you felt that phantom sordidus creep in during taper week and convinced yourself that you're dying.
But did you die?
Or maybe you're standing in your kitchen right now, staring at your oatmeal and wondering if you even deserve carbs anymore since you haven't trained in what, like 36 hours? Welcome. You're among friends, and today we're going to fix your relationship with tapering, because most people will either get it wrong, ignore it completely, or treat it like a superstition. Tapering is not a vibe, it's not a rest week, and it's not optional. It's the final essential phase of your training that lets your body actually consolidate all the fitness that you've been building. We're going to break this down. What is tapering? What does it actually do? How do you build one that works for your event? And how to tell whether your training plan's taper is top-notch or hot garbage. So let's kick things off with the basics. Tapering is the structured reduction in training load leading up to an important event. Let me stress the word structured. It is not just less miles or take a few rest days. It's the planned unloading of stress to allow for full recovery and maximum performance. Think of it like polishing a blade. You've already done the forging and training. The taper is the time to sharpen it. At its core, a good taper does three things, none of which involves sitting motionless on your couch, watching your fitness evaporate like a Snapchat streak. First, the taper reduces accumulated fatigue. Your legs are not tired because your fitness is garbage. They're tired because you've been stacking stress week after week. Training builds fitness, yes, but it also builds fatigue. The taper pulls that fatigue off your back like a weighted vest so the fitness underneath can actually show up. Kind of like washing off 3 weeks of poor life decisions before a job interview. Still you, just less tragic. Second, the taper maintains fitness while allowing for adaptation. You don't just stop improving when you stop training hard. You often keep adapting for a while. That's because your body needs time to make sense of the chaos you just threw at it. The mitochondria you built during that big weekend training block, they're not kicking in immediately. They're getting constructed during your recovery period, your recovery days, deload weeks, and of course your taper. A good taper keeps just enough intensity to remind your body what it's here to do without adding more damage to clean up. And third, the taper aims to optimize physiological readiness. This is where the magic happens. Glycogen stores, cue the broken record about carbohydrates here. Your body's go-to fuel for endurance efforts starts to top off when you reduce your training volume but keep fueling properly. That's because you're not burning through as much energy every day, so your body actually gets the chance to store more. It's like getting a fuel tank of gas before a road trip instead of constantly driving on fumes praying for a gas station to magically appear. Now yes, this is where people start nervously eyeing the scale and wondering if they should start eating cleaner or cutting back because they're training less. Don't. This isn't the time to go low carb, skip meals, or flirt with a calorie deficit just because you're afraid of gaining a pound. Supercompensation is quite literally the point here. Storing more glycogen means more water, more fuel, and yes, a little more scale weight. It also means more energy and more power. That's not bloat, that's horsepower that you need to perform at your best. For perspective, glycogen holds water, about 3 grams of it for every gram of stored carbohydrate. So yes, your weight might tick up just slightly. The average person can store around 400 to 500 grams of glycogen, which means when fully primed, you're carrying roughly 2 to 3 pounds of race fuel, not fluff. Depending on how depleted you are on a regular basis, the difference for you could range from anywhere from negligible to slightly noticeable. What is important is that it's not fat gain. That's race day readiness in molecular form. You'll be hydrated, fueled, and ready to actually sustain effort, not bonk at mile 14 because you were trying to fit in the jeans of your high school self instead of the kit of your fastest self. In short, fuel your taper like you intend to show up and perform, not like you're auditioning for a swimsuit ad in the middle of a famine. Now at the same time, your body gets a hormonal reset. Cortisol drops, testosterone and growth hormone balance out, and your immune system gets a chance to stop playing whack-a-mole with all your training-induced inflammation. Blood plasma volume may increase slightly, which can help with thermoregulation and aerobic efficiency, and your neuromuscular coordination, that critical connection between your brain and your muscles, that gets sharper when you're not constantly training in a fog of fatigue. Put simply, the taper is when all the messy remodeling from your training finally finishes. The walls get painted, the plumbing starts working again, and you're no longer living in a metaphorical construction zone. It's not rest, it's refinement. So what should a taper actually look like? The rather unsatisfying answer is that it depends. Some athletes feel incredible after just a few days of lower load. I'm sure you've met athletes like that before. They're fast responders. Others need 10 to 14 days to really come around. There's no right or wrong answer here. It's a function of how your body operates. If you've tapered before, think back. Did you feel flat or fast on event day? Use that as a clue. And if you're a master's athlete, you may need a longer taper with a gentler slope. Your recovery takes longer, and too much intensity late in the week can wipe you out rather than sharpen you. Think glide path, not nosedive. The perfect taper is not just about the event, it's about how your body reacts to rest and reduction. But with the individual variability in mind, I can give you some foundational principles that apply across most endurance sports. There are 3 main levers that you can adjust during your taper: volume, frequency, and intensity. These are the dials, and you don't want to be twisting them all at once unless you enjoy arriving at your event feeling a ratty old couch strapped up with a garment. The first lever is volume, and this is the big one. Your total mileage, time, or workload should drop by about 40 to 60% from your peak. If you're logging 10 hours a week, your final taper week might be closer to 5 or 6. Not 0, not I'm scared so I'll keep going like normal, somewhere in the middle. The longer and more grueling your event, the deeper your taper needs to be, because longer events build more fatigue that takes longer to clear. You're shedding fatigue, not fitness here. Think of it like pulling back just far enough that your body can finally absorb what you've done. And if you've been heat training for a hot weather race, don't ditch the heat exposure entirely. Just scale back the duration. Even short, easy sessions in warm conditions can help preserve the heat adaptations without adding meaningful fatigue. But I'll be doing a deep dive into heat acclimation in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for that. But don't get sneaky and try to go make up for the lost volume by walking everywhere or reorganizing your garage. That defeats the purpose. You're aiming for strategic conservation, not fidgeting in disguise. The second thing we'll look at is frequency. This is how often you train, how many sessions per week, and unlike volume, frequency actually doesn't change that much. You still want to train almost as often as usual. If you normally run 5 days a week, you might be running 4 days or likely even keep the 5. But instead of a 60-minute grind on a Wednesday, you might be doing 35 to 40 minutes with some short pickups. This keeps your routine consistent, your neuromuscular system engaged, and your brain from spiraling into that taper madness. People mess this up by going full sloth and skipping sessions entirely. Then they show up to their event wondering why their legs have forgotten how to function. Keep the pattern. Just trim the sessions down to sharpen the focus. And of course, we need to look at intensity. This is where things get spicy, but in a very controlled way. Don't remove all the hard efforts here. This is how you end up flat, sluggish, and feeling like a houseplant that someone forgot to water the morning of your event. Instead, include small doses of race pace and slightly above race pace work, some short intervals, strides, or even short sweet spot efforts. To be clear, you're keeping the level of intensity high, but the volume of those efforts drops. So instead of 4 by 5 minutes, for example, you might be doing 2 by 3. Enough to stay sharp without getting completely smoked. You need to keep in mind these efforts don't build any new fitness. They remind your body of how to access the fitness you've already built. Think of it like keeping the pot at a nice simmer, but ensuring that it doesn't boil over. And no, this isn't a license to sneak in a last-minute threshold workout because you felt good. The week before your event is not the time to cram. The window for the build is closed. You're not getting faster this week, you're getting fresher. Your job is to polish, not to rebuild. Put all this together and you've got the blueprint of a taper. Volume goes down significantly, frequency drops slightly, if at all, and intensity stays present, but minimal and purposeful. If your plan cuts all 3 of these at once, that's not a taper, it's an extended nap with bonus stress. Fix it. And while this should go without saying, I am going to say it anyway. This is the week where sleep, stress, nutrition, and hydration matter even more. You're not just tapering your mileage, you're tapering your overall stress load. That includes life chaos. If you're staying up until 2 a.m. and having a meltdown over your sock choice, your taper isn't working. Now, I'm sure many of you are looking for a little more specificity on what a good taper looks like. And because each of you will train and respond differently, it would be impossible to make a prescription for every distance, every age group, every weird race format, and your cousin's uncoached chaos plan. We'd literally be here all day. But I will try to give you some high-level starting points for common disciplines. Because tapering for a 5K is not the same as tapering for an Ironman, unless your goal for both is mild disappointment. So let's start with running. A marathon taper, you're looking at a 2 to 3 week taper. If your peak weekly mileage was 50 miles, you're aiming for about 35 miles in week 1, 25 to 30 in week 2, and 15 to 20 in race week. In week 1, drop your long run by about 30 to 35%. So if you were doing 20 miles, now you're doing 13 to 14. Keep one race pace workout that week, like maybe 2 miles at marathon pace, and reduce your easy run durations across the board. Don't stop running, just start trimming the fat. Week 2, another volume cut, down to maybe 50 to 60% of your peak mileage. Your long run might be 10 to 12 miles now, and your midweek workout might look something like 3 to 4 miles at race pace or short aerobic intervals like 4 by 5 minutes at tempo. Race week, you're going to be down to 30 to 40% of peak mileage, so maybe 15 to 20 miles total if you peaked at 50. Keep your frequency up, but runs should be short, maybe 30 to 40 minutes with some strides. Include one short tempo, like 2 miles at race pace early in the week to stay sharp. No heroic intervals and no spontaneous 10-milers. Save it for the start line. Half marathon taper, same structure, just compressed. A 10 to 14-day taper works for most runners. You can cut your long run from 12 to 8 or 9 in the first week, include one race pace workout like 3 by 1 mile at goal pace, and trim volume to about 60% of peak. Race week, 30 to 40%, same rule rules apply. For a 5K or 10K, you're looking at a 5 to 7 day taper. You want to feel sharp, not sluggish. Cut your weekly mileage by about 30 to 40%. Keep the intensity high, but volume gets short. Maybe 6 by 200 at 5K pace or 3 by 90 seconds at VO2 max. One hard session early in the week, then short, easy runs with some strides leading to race day. Now let's talk cycling. Because of the low-impact nature of the sport, cyclists can actually get away with a shorter taper, usually around 7 to 10 days for most single-day events. Cut your total training hours by about 40 to 50%, so if you normally ride around 10 hours a week, you'll scale that back to 5 to 6. Keep the structure of your week intact, but shorten your rides and keep intensity in small doses. Include short intervals early in the week, like 2 by 4 minutes at VO2 max or 4 by 1 minute anaerobic bursts with full recovery, and add a few 15 to 30-second sprints midweek to maintain that neuromuscular step. For criterion, you need to feel punchy, not rested. Your legs should snap like a mousetrap, not melt like a sad ice cream cone. Keep cadence high and sessions short. No noodling around in zone 2 for hours. A midweek ride with maybe 6 by 15-second all-out sprints and a race opener the day before with 3 to 4 hard efforts will prime your legs without draining the tank. For a time trial, it's about specificity. Dial in your position and your power. Do a session early in the week with 2 by 10 minutes at race wattage, then reduce total volume to about 60 to 70% of your normal load. And the day before, include one short opener ride with 3 to 5 race pace pickups, maybe 1 to 2 minutes each to stay locked in without overcooking. You want to toe the line with the target power feeling like second nature to you and the freshness to execute. For something like a Century, a Gran Fondo, or a multi-day event, you're going to want a slightly longer taper, maybe 10 to 14 days. Reduce your long rides significantly. If your last big weekend was 80 miles, you might want to go 50 the next, then 30 the weekend before the event. Cut your weekly training hours by about 40 to 50% and keep the frequency steady. Ride 4 to 5 days that week, but most sessions should be under 90 minutes. Include one ride midweek at goal pace to keep your endurance engine calibrated. Fatigue and not strictly volume is the enemy here. And of course, we can't forget triathlon. Triathletes, you have 3 sports, 3 schedules, and exactly zero margin for error. For a sprint or Olympic, a 7 to 10 day taper works pretty well for most. Reduce volume in each discipline by about 40 to 50%. That means shorter swim sets, rides, and runs, but you still train most days. A day of the taper might look like a swim session with 8 by 50 at race effort, a 45-minute ride with a few 2-minute tempo pickups, and a 30-minute run with strides. Intensity stays in, but in short, manageable chunks. You're keeping your rhythm, not trying to squeeze in extra fitness here. Don't overthink it. For a 70.3 or Ironman, it's a completely different beast. You'll need a 2 to 3 week taper. Week 1, cut your total volume by about 25 to 30%. Week 2, another 20 to 25% reduction. And race week, you're down to 30 to 40% of your peak training volume. So if you were doing 15 hours, now you might be doing 5 to 6. But you are still training almost daily. A 30-minute swim, a 45-minute ride, a short shakeout run. You're keeping the frequency high so your body doesn't forget what's coming. But you are trimming the time and effort so that you're not dragging that race week fatigue to the start line. This is especially important for swimming. If you're not from a swimming background, you need frequent, low-fatigue touch points in the water. Even 20 to 30-minute swims with short sets like 6 by 50 or 4 by 100 keep your stroke mechanics sharp. Take more than a couple days off and your body forgets how to swim in a straight line. Ask me how I know. Intensity stays in small, early doses. Week 1 might include workouts like 2 by 10 minutes at tempo on the bike or a short brick with a few race-pace strides. By race week, you're just flicking that neuromuscular light switch. 20-second surges, short pickups, enough to stay awake without using up anything that you're going to need on the course. And for the love of watts, don't decide to test your race day gear on race week. That's how people end up with chafing places that they just don't want to talk about. I know this probably feels like a lot, but if you do the taper right, you will toe the line for your event knowing that you are well prepared to capitalize on all the fitness that you've worked so hard to build. If you're feeling doubtful during your taper, ask yourself, is my volume dropping progressively and not catastrophically? Am I keeping some intensity just in smaller doses? Do I feel weird but not completely flat or overstressed? Have I avoided panic training during the taper week? And am I doing the basics brilliantly? Sleep, nutrition, life stress. If you can answer yes to those questions, praise the endurance gods, you are tapering like a grown-up. The bottom line is if your taper plan just says rest for a few days and hope for the best, you can do better. Your fitness deserves better. And if your taper week is indistinguishable from every other training week, same volume, same intensity, same grind, you're not tapering, you're just gambling with a fatigued body and calling it a strategy. Tapering is not the finish line, it's the final sharpening stone. Skip the taper or screw it up and you risk blunting the adaptations that you've worked so hard to build. You won't just feel tired, you may literally underperform your fitness level because your body hasn't had a chance to absorb the load. Do it right and you'll race strong, confident, and ready to cash in on all the suffering that you've bagged during that training period. Most people hit peak performance between 2 to 5 days after their final key workout, that last race pace or intensity session within the taper, not your Thursday shakeout jog. That's your sweet spot. Push too much volume and sneak in another confidence booster late in the week and you'll blow right past it. You're not gaining fitness, you're just missing the window. So don't sabotage it. Trust the process, let your body recover and adapt, and prepare to show up. Approach your event smart, and if you blow it, you could just lie and say that you were experimenting with a reverse taper. It sounds cool, and no one will ask follow-up questions. Pay no mind to that look that they might be giving you. But let me know, what are you tapering for this year? Have you mastered or bombed your taper in the past? I'd love to hear more from you in the comments down below. And on the way down there, you know, the YouTubey stuff, the shameless plug, you know it, whatever. As always, I will catch you in the next one. See ya.